Yo! What the heck is up, everybody? The Eddie Liger Power Hour is back. We are here. We are remonetized. Super Chats now available for the first time in months. Let's go, baby. And I'm gonna start this stream out with a little diss track. Some bars, some hot fire that I spit about our Midwestern Marx editor, Noah Kratchvik. Check this out. Mm-mm. You know. Yup. Mm-hmm. No sound? You gotta be kidding me. Gosh, that was so perfect. Of course, I messed it up. 1 sec. Yo, Noah Kratchvik, I'm calling you out. This the hardest rap diss of 2024. Kendrick and Drake ain't got nothing on me. You're about to get roasted, son. Get it. Prepare yourself. Here it comes. Suck it, Noah. You're done, Kratchvik. Yo, Noah, your back is really scratchy. It's full of hair and it's really patchy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're always working with wood. But everybody knows that you're not very good. Not a good carpenter, yeah. And I'm coming after you. Everyone thinks you smell like poo. Thank you, yeah. Yeah, and you have a scratchy voice. But everyone knows you do it by choice. He does it, he makes it up. Yeah, it's because you smoke too many cigs. Mm-hmm. Even though I admit your muscles are pretty big. Mm-hmm. Not really, though. Yeah, but you're ugly as crap. Yep. I'm gonna hit you with a bat. Uh-huh. Yeah, and you just got roasted. I'll put you in my toaster and you'll get toasted. Yup. And you are fat. Yeah, I'm gonna steal your cat again. Boom. Jeez. Noah just got flamed, boy. He just got flamed. Drake and Kendrick ain't got nothing on me, boy. That was good. That was good stuff. Do you think comrade here says you should do more rapping? Maybe I will. W ad-libs Eddie. Thank you. Thank you. Someone here says listen to Heinz Hall. Do you think that Macklemore would be mad at us for listening to Heinz Hall on the stream? I've seen people uploading it on TikTok and not getting taken down. I've seen, like he said, all the funds are going to UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which is the main source of necessary resources. It's the main lifeline for the Palestinians ever since the imposition of the blockade in 2007. But he uploaded on YouTube, did he? I'm gonna steal your cat again. Yeah, for those who don't know, I stole Noah's cat. I think we can at least listen to parts of it, right? I played it on TikTok and I didn't get in trouble. Let's give it a go.
Yeah. The people, they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting and want a piece? The problem isn't the protest, it's what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police.
So based. When I heard that part of the song, I was like, whoa! Macklemore. This is not what I expected from you. I've never heard you say this. I mean, like, one of that comedian, his name's like Moshito Dorito. He's kind of a leftist. He's anti-Marxist Leninist, so we've had beef in the past because he's stupid about existing socialism. But he was saying Macklemore only got into the Palestine movement like a few months ago. Like, he just started showing up at protests, and now he's already educated himself, and he's going hard. So, shout out to Benjamin Hammond Haggerty. which is Macklemore's real name that I just looked up. Amsterdam is also going crazy. Interesting. Keep listening. And then they killed it too with the song. Like, there are Macklemore songs that I really like Can't Hold Us and Thrift Shop is a good song. I don't care what people say. I know it's kind of annoying, but you know, I haven't been a huge fan of his music since like high school. But this legitimately goes hard.
Just a badge, just protecting property and a system that was designed by white supremacy. But the people are in the streets. You could pay off Meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means. APAC, Kofi, and all the companies. You see, we sell fear around the land of the free. But this generation here is about to cut the strings. You can ban TikTok, take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth, we bear witness. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers, and the children, and all the men that you murdered. And then we see how you spin it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance has always been about dollars and the color of your pigment. But white supremacy is finally on blast, screaming free Palestine to their home at last. We see the lies. And
that was my favorite part of the song, that middle part. I mean, the part where he says he's not voting for Biden in the fall. You gotta like that part too. But the part of the song that caused controversy is him calling out white supremacy, right? And you know, I get it because Zionism is technically based in Jewish supremacy, right? Jewish supremacy has always been a vital part of the Zionist ideology. It's always been a foundational element of the state of Israel, which is an ethno-state and an apartheid state based on the idea that, you know, that land should belong to Jewish people because they're Jewish, and it shouldn't be available to shouldn't belong to the indigenous Palestinian population. But, you know, secondarily, on top of that, most of these Jewish people who are moving into Arab land are stealing land from brown people, and most of them are white, right? Most of them are from America. Most of them are from Europe. The entire Israeli population isn't white, but many of them are, and you know, the vast majority of the Palestinian population is brown. So there's also an element of white supremacy there, and you know, he's also calling out the British and the United States, who have backed Israel since its inception. The current form, you know, the Israel in its current form wouldn't exist without the backing of the United States and Britain. And those are two countries that have, you know, repeatedly used white supremacy in order to divide the working masses and uphold the ruling class. Even, you know, in Europe, they even had like race science. They made a whole pseudo academic field called race science to argue that the colonized peoples were lesser than the Europeans. So there is an element of white supremacy in Zionism, and I don't have any problem with Macklemore calling it out. Obviously, our problems are rooted in global capitalism. White supremacy isn't the core of the issue today, but, you know, it is an element of Zionism. So I have no problem with him saying that. What's up, Fine Art Revolution? How's it going, brother? Macklemore definitely went through a similar trajectory to all of us post-Obama, for sure. Or even post-Bernie, you know. You probably know Macklemore better than I do. I haven't been following his politics that closely, but a lot of people went on a more radical trajectory post-Bernie. By the way, if you guys have questions, our super chat feature is back. We've been remonetized on YouTube. We are back. Google AdSense has unsuspended us finally. So if you have questions, you can send them in the form of super chats, and I'll make sure to get to them at the end of the segment or at the end of the show. We answer all super chat questions always, unless it's just something completely unhinged and ridiculous that's going to get us in trouble for answering. But the vast majority of super chat questions we will answer. We're remonetized. Google AdSense had demonetized us and suspended our account for months with no explanation other than telling us that we needed to enter more information into their website, even though we had already entered all of our information. And just recently, after multiple public pressure campaigns against YouTube and Google, we've gotten our account remonetized. So super chats are available, folks. How's it going, everybody? let's continue with the song.
No, claiming it's anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. I seen Jewish brothers and sisters out there reviving in solidarity and screaming free Palestine, with them organizing and learning and finally cutting ties with the state that's gotta rely on apartheid system to uphold an occupying violent history been repeating for the last 75. The Nakba never ended, the colonizer lied. If students in tents posted on the lawn, occupying the quad is really against the law, and a reason to call in the police and their squad where the genocide land in your definition, huh? Destroying every college in Gaza and every mosque, pushing everyone in the Rafah and dropping bombs. The blood is on your hands, Biden, we can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. Undecided, you can't twist the truth. The people out here united, never be defeated when freedom's on the horizon. Yet the music industry's quiet, complicit in their platform of silence. What happened to the artist? What you gotta say? If I was on a label, you could drop me today. I'll be fine with it, cause the heart fed my page. I want a ceasefire, fuck a response from Drake.
I love how he calls out the stupid rap disses of today. And you know, I've enjoyed the Kendrick versus Drake beef. It's been entertaining and kind of crazy, but it's like, why aren't we focusing on the U.S. government? Why aren't we focusing on the Zionists? Those are the people who really need to get dissed, who really need to get put in their place. Greetings, comrade from Southwest England. What up, Daniel? Thanks for joining us today. Thought that video of Carlos with the Subway Surfers was really funny. Yeah, Carlos talks too slow. He always gives philosophy lectures, so we have to give people Subway Surfers to keep the dopamine flowing. You feel me? Power Hour's back. Yeah, yes, and our super chats are back. We have been remonetized. Fine Art Revolution asked, did they ever explain why you got demonetized? No, they just sent us something back saying thank you for entering that information that was missing. You've been remonetized. But like, I didn't enter any information. There was never any information missing. I know, because I checked like 10 times. I'm like, what information do they need? I kept, like, the other night, I literally woke up in the middle of the night and I was having like, not a panic attack, but I was like freaking out about how we're demonetized. And I like opened Google AdSense. I'm like, what am I missing here? And that's probably when I sent YouTube support the angry email that finally got us put back on. But do I get my badge back? You should. See, that's BS if they take all of our YouTube member rewards away, right? Because don't they give you like special rewards for being a member for a long period of time? That's bullshit if they take that away. YouTube is on some wackish, Eddie. They are. My next rap diss will be against YouTube and Google AdSense. That's actually a great idea.
What you willing to risk? What you willing to give? What if you were in Gaza? What if those were your kids?
That's actually my favorite part. That line is so hard.
Willing to risk? What you willing to fire? Fuck a response from Drake. What you willing to risk? What you willing to give? What if you were in Gaza? What if those were your kids?
What are you willing to risk? What are you willing to give? What if you were in Gaza? What if those were your kids? Damn. That's the stuff I think about every day. My roommate asked me the other day, do you think you're on a CIA watch list? And I'm like, I'm sure, people in the U.S. government or in the U.S. intelligence agencies know who I am. I'm sure they got a file on me somewhere in Langley, right? I don't think they're tracking my every move or super worried about me, but I'm sure they know who I am. And he's like, are you ever worried they'll come after you? And my deepest fear is being put in solitary confinement. But, if they do to me the same thing that they did to my hero, Che Guevara, who's hanging on my wall up there, what a better way to go. What a better way to pass away and leave this life than to die fighting for what you believe in, to die fighting for your beliefs. And, you think about the kids in Gaza. He says, what if those were your kids? They don't have a choice. They do not have a choice. They were born into occupation. They were born into an open air prison. They're born into a place where their friends and family are being unalived. I can say killed because we're on YouTube. I'm used to TikTok. They're being killed by missiles every single day. They have no choice to resist. They have no choice to fight back. And then when they do, the U.S. media calls them terrorists. But, for us as internationalists, as socialists, as anti-imperialists, we have to put ourselves in their shoes, right? We have to try and feel, an ounce of the desperation that they feel. And when I coach little kids wrestling for a living, when I, in addition to running the Midwestern Marx Institute, And I always think about that number of 13 to 14,000 dead children right now in Gaza. That's like every little kid who I coach times 100. Well, way more than that, times like 1,000. Right? So it's like every kid who I coach being unalived like 100 times over. And I think like if anybody did that, if any foreign power did that to one of my kids, to one of those sweet, cute little kids who I coach wrestling to and teach wrestling moves to, if one of them was unalived by a foreign power, I would be ready to fight back. Right? I would be ready to do whatever it takes to stop those people from unaliving, from killing any more of my children. I got to stop saying unaliving. I'm so used to TikTok. You know, and it's 13,000. And then we call them terrorists for fighting back. Like, give me a break. Future Homestead, a new member, our very first member after being remonetized. I mean, I think it's only fitting that Future Homestead would be the first member, given that they've been a fan of Midwestern Marx from the beginning. A hero of the Institute, as Noah said on the last Basics of Marxism class. But thank you, Future Homestead. Our YouTube members get a bunch of perks. You get a link to, I think you get a specific, like a special Discord channel for like Patreon supporters and stuff. But you also get a copy of Carlos's book, The Purity, Fetish, and the Crisis of Western Marxism, on PDF file. And you get some other things too. You get to see exclusive posts. You get some badges and emotes and stuff. Hey, I get to keep my badge. Sweet. Sweet. So yeah, had to go manually renew the subscription. Gotcha. Yeah, so if you're a former Midwestern Marx member who was kicked off by the suppression of our channel, make sure to re-sign up. I also think Popers, because Popers is another longtime member, comrade of the Institute, similar to Future Homestead. And he was the one who actually messaged me on Twitter and told me that we had been remonetized because he got an email about it. So he might have been actually the first to re-sign up as a Midwestern Marx member, but makes sense that Popers and Future Homestead would be the first.
If the West was pretending that you didn't exist, you want the world to stand up, and the students finally did. Let's get it.
Now, what's going to be important, everybody, is to continue educating and continue talking about Palestine, even when this conflict dies down. Right now, it's not very close to dying down right now. Israel just walked across or troops just came across the border of Egypt into Gaza. We're going to talk about that later today and watch a Richard Medhurst video. But the invasion of Rafah is upcoming. We're seeing more and more horrific videos of children being pulled from rubble as Israel has continued their bombing campaign in Rafah, or revamped their bombing campaign of Gaza and specifically targeted West Rafah, I believe. So it's not close to over. But even when things do die down, right, and the conflict isn't as hot as it is right now, as chaotic as it is right now, we need to keep educating people. We need to keep reminding them that the apartheid and the occupation is going on, because I feel like that's what we're seeing now. Is there have been people like us and like James Ray on TikTok who have been talking about Palestine, every month for years now. For years. So there were a lot of people that when the most recent genocide started happening, and when October 7th happened, there were people who already had the background knowledge, right? So they were too smart to be tricked by the mainstream media. They knew that this conflict didn't begin on October 7th because they had already been educated about it. And that was a big problem with Russia-Ukraine, is nobody really knew what was going on. From my perspective, in the circles that I ran in, nobody except like the keenest geopolitical analysts and the oldest, wisest journalists who have been around for a while really knew what was going on, or why Russia was launching this invasion. And we all kind of had to catch up and learn. Right. So if we can get everybody educated about the Nakba and the 1967 war and Israeli settler colonialism and the theft of land, then when one of these hot button issues pop up, we're ready. We're prepared. People are have the tools to see through the propaganda. And this is a point that Marxist Saw made, a moderator of the Midwestern Marx Discord, that, you know, the most important thing that we've done, or one of the most important things that we've done over the past, since starting our TikTok account and the Midwestern Marx Institute, is continue to educate people about Palestine even when it's not in the news. Continue to get viral videos about Palestinians even when they're not in the news, and talk about the ones who are being killed in the West Bank and those who are being killed in the Gaza Strip. Because, you know, there's consistently children and civilians being killed. It's not like hundreds in a day. It's not always like hundreds in a day like we're seeing now, but it is always going on. The occupation itself is violent. Colonialism is inherently violent. That never goes away. It just heats up at certain points. But yeah, we got to keep educating ourselves and keep reading. Even though it took this genocide popping off for me to read like 7 or 8 books about Palestine that I had been wanting to read forever, I was just kept looking at the videos and pictures of little kids being pulled out of rubble. I'm friggin' reading out of anger. Olav, a new member. Thank you, Olav. Thank you for joining the Midwestern Marx Institute. Please enjoy all your members' rewards. One of the things I want to start doing is more members exclusive and Patreon exclusive videos. But thank you so much. Thankful for leftists and Marxists like Eddie. Very hopeful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm thankful and hopeful because of people like you. If I was to shout out one person who's educated people about Palestine long before October, it's Salma Shawa. She's from Gaza, living in the USA. Interesting. I'll have to check her out. Thank you, Olav. Yes, that's very important. Very important. So this is a hilarious TikTok that I saw posted about the comparing Macklemore's diss of the U.S. government to the Drake and Kendrick disses.
That's why your wife cheated on you, bitch. End your own life. End your own life. I'm not kidding. I do not want you alive anymore.
I'm serious. I will take you to a cemetery.
Whoa, they're going crazy. Thank God nobody's coming after us like that. You old ass, bum ass, loser ass bitches. First of all, free motherfucking Palestine.
I love it. The rap game, the recent disses, they've been won. Not by Drake, not by Kendrick, not by J. Cole, but by Macklemore. The biggest come-from-behind upset in rap or sports history. We are so back. We are so back. Let's go. By the way, I'm going to be at the conference, speaking at the conference. I think I have more speaking time now than I even had previously, but in Dearborn, Michigan with the Infrared guys and Haas and Hinkle. It should be really fun. I don't think tickets are sold out yet. They're going fast, but they're not sold out. So check that out on Twitter. Haas and Hinkle have been advertising the crap out of it. We put an advertisement out on our Twitter page. It'd be awesome to have you guys there, even if you have disagreements with Haas, Hinkle, me, whatever. It'd just be cool to meet with people and discuss what we want to do going forward in order to organize against this murderous empire and the financiers and multinational corporations and speculators who have captured the U.S. government and the U.S. system. Macklemore colonized the rap. That's funny. Hell yeah. F the personal beef between those two. Love it. Yep. Get over that. Two Dissidents is going to Dearborn as well? No way. Oh, they're doing it at a different time. Okay. Is it the whole day event in Michigan? Yes. Yeah, I think it's going to be like a long event. We have a lot going on for that event in Michigan. Midwestern Marx is going to be making power moves. We're going to be meeting with people, putting together meetings to try and do more stuff on the ground going forward and really get this political movement going. Really get some grassroots organizing efforts going, getting into workplaces, getting into communities, spreading the good word, teaching people about Marxism, Leninism, murderous empires. Right. What's your opinion on Jill Stein? Most of her political opinions are good. Most of her takes are good. You know, she was good on the Ukraine issue. She's a based old lady. I'll vote for her long before I'll vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Will it be streamed? I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I'm in Flint. I'll head down. Maybe I'll head down for a day. Please do. Yes. Please do. That'd be awesome. Love to have you there. Love to have you there. All right, let's move on to our next segment. We have Mitt Romney. Genius Mitt Romney, the inventor of Obamacare, which was then sold. It was invented in a Mitt Romney think tank, and it was then adopted by the Democratic Party and sold to the American people as a progressive healthcare policy so that they didn't have to give us Medicare for all and do anything about the insurance industry. And in fact, Obamacare was basically a government stimulus to the insurance industry. Again, it was thought up in a Republican think tank, probably funded by the insurance industry. But of course, the Democrats are also funded by the insurance industry. So anyways, Mitt Romney sucks and the Democrats suck also. We already know this. But Mitt Romney was talking to Anthony Blinken. So we had two of the worst people in the world in one room. And they were discussing the TikTok ban. And once again, saying the quiet part out loud. U.S. senators and U.S. public officials cannot stop saying the quiet part out loud about the TikTok ban, and admitting that they're moving to ban TikTok because there's too much pro-Palestinian content on the app. Young people are moving towards pro-Palestinian politics, and the U.S. State Department does not like it. You can see Anthony Blinken seems to be a little more intelligent than Mitt Romney in this clip. He's like squirming in his seat. He's like, Mitt, shut the hell up. We're not supposed to tell the people that we're banning TikTok because we want to censor their freedom of political expression. But Mitt just don't get it.
But somebody leaked it to us. We'll play that in a moment. But first, here's Romney and Blinken.
Why has the PR been so awful? I know that's not your area of expertise, but you have to have some thoughts on that, which is, I mean, as you said, why has Hamas disappeared in terms of public perception? An offer is on the table to have a ceasefire, and yet the world is screaming about Israel. It's like, why aren't they screaming about Hamas? Accept the ceasefire, bring home the hostages. It's said it's all the other way around. Typically, the Israelis are good at PR.
What Norm Finkelstein does in his books, typically the Israelis are good at PR, and he's saying now they're not. That's hilarious. But one of the things that Norm Finkelstein says in his books, or does in his books, is compares the death tolls between the Israelis and the Palestinians. He shows how much, exactly how much destruction was caused by Hamas rockets, exactly how many people were killed by Hamas rockets or by various attacks, and then exactly how many people were killed by Israeli missiles and by the Israeli attacks. And the numbers are always thousands and thousands and thousands of Palestinians. Hundreds of homes destroyed, flour mills destroyed, water sanitation facilities, schools, UN, facilities with humanitarian aid. All this stuff is destroyed by Israel. And then it's like 12 Israeli homes were damaged and one person was injured, right? Those were the statistics for like the 2008 Israeli bombardment, the 2014 Israeli bombardment. It's the same. Right, October 7th was the most casualties that have been inflicted on the Israelis maybe ever by the Palestinian resistance. But it's like, even if you look at the statistics, it's 1,200 people killed on October 7th. Many of them killed by Israeli Apache helicopters firing on their own civilians, #Hannibal Doctrine. And then you have over 30,000 Palestinians. About 1,000 Israelis, most of them killed by their own government, and then over 30,000 Palestinians. And Mitt Romney's over here like, why are all these kids worried about the Palestinians? Why aren't they demonizing the Palestinians and supporting the Israelis? They have it completely the wrong way. They have it completely mixed up. No, dumbass, you have it mixed up. We're calling out the government that's killed 30,000 people. You're calling out the people who killed 1,000 because they've been trapped in an open-air prison for 70 years being starved by a blockade. You have it mixed up. But, of course, Mitt Romney gets that moolah from AIPAC, so he doesn't mean anything that he says. He's just saying what his donors want him to because he's a spineless, soulless husk of a man.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? How have they and
suck it. My TikToks are more powerful than the Israeli PR machine. That's what happened, bitch. Suck it.
We been so ineffective at communicating the realities there and our point of view. How this narrative has evolved. Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a good answer to that. One can speculate about what some of the causes might be. I don't know. I can tell you this. We were talking about this a little bit over dinner with Cindy. I think in my time in Washington, which is a little bit over 30 years, the single biggest change has been in the information environment. And when I started out in the early 1990s,
lawmakers admit TikTok ban meant to help Israeli PR. You know, these are the proudest moments of my life. Truly, the proudest moments of my 27 years of life so far. When I see these demons, these ghouls, these people who belong in a jail cell like Anthony Blinken, crying and having a tantrum about TikTok because the Israeli PR machine is getting destroyed by a bunch of kids like me on TikTok, or young people like me on TikTok. It makes me so proud. It makes me so happy. I hope all of these government officials have trouble sleeping at night because they're so worried about what we're doing on TikTok and how we're breaking the information blockade on TikTok. The fact that they feel like they have to ban it because we're too successful in getting our message out there using this app is amazing and one of the proudest moments of my life. Truly, and I made this point when I gave my speech for the Revolution Report at their conference in Chicago. I said, if revolution was impossible, if overthrowing our existing political system was impossible, they would not spend so much time, effort, and energy trying to suppress us. They wouldn't. But look at them. Look at how desperate they are to get the Israeli PR machine back on its feet, to get people in Israel's corner again, cheering on their genocide. They're so desperate, and they're moving to ban TikTok. And they're not even, doing that good of a job of lying about it. They're not even saying it's a Chinese security threat anymore. They're admitting that they want to ban it because there's too much anti-genocide content on TikTok. And, I don't know if they didn't know that this was being recorded or what. They're at the McCain Institute. So, of course, they're speaking to other people like themselves. They're speaking to other corrupt politicians, donors, lobbyists, people who would go to a corporate think tank or go to an Anthony Blinken speaking engagement. But still, the fact that they're so, openly saying the quiet part out loud is quite unbelievable.
90s, everyone did the same thing. You woke up in the morning, you opened the door of your apartment, your house, you picked up a hard copy of the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. And then if you had a television in your office, you turned it on at 6:30 or 7 o'clock and watched the national network news. Now, of course, we are on an intravenous feed of information with new impulses, inputs every millisecond. And of course, the way this is played out on social media has dominated the narrative. And you have a social media ecosystem environment in which
this dude
context,
talks too slow,
history, facts get lost, and the emotion.
No. And this is what's so funny too, is they try to be so condescending. These idiot kids are being tricked by 6-second TikToks, so they're missing the facts and the history. No, we're not getting the Zionist fake history lesson from you. We're not getting the fake history lesson that blames the Palestinians for their own land being seized piece by piece, as hundreds of thousands of them are murdered and exterminated. We're not getting that fake history lesson that paints the Israelis as heroes no matter how many babies they slaughter. We're getting the real history. We're getting the Palestinian perspective. We're getting the Zionist perspective too. But people aren't buying it. They see the Zionists for what they are, genocidal, imperialist liars, a neocolonial tool of the U.S. empire. We're giving people that history, which is preventing you from being able to lie about it. We're giving people the actual facts, so then when you come in and try to paint Israel as the heroes, they don't buy it because they actually know what's going on. So, as usual, Anthony Blinken has the situation completely inverted.
The impact of images dominates, and we can't discount that. But I think it also has a very, very, very challenging effect on on the narrative. A small parenthetical point, which is some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok.
Look how he says there's overwhelming support for him to for them to ban TikTok. Among who, Mitt? Overwhelming support among who? Not among the American people, but among the Zionist lobby and the people the other rich, corrupt politicians sitting here at the McCain Institute with you. And wouldn't you know, folks, wouldn't you know, Mitt Romney gets almost $1 million from AIPAC and the pro-Israeli lobby. So there's overwhelming support for banning TikTok from who, Mitt? The American public or your corporate donors?
TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd know that's of real interest, and the president will get the chance to make action in that regard.
Now, normally after a clip like that, we'd like to help people read between the lines because sometimes politicians speak in code.
Not there.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they tell you exactly what they're thinking. Another case is
True. Very true. Biden is a criminal and should be in jail. He's illegally funding and arming a genocide. Yeah, and did people see? Actually, this is something we should play right now in tandem with the video we just watched.
Talented.
Because some Republican politicians signed a letter threatening the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor.
The U.S. is now threatening
their family.
international.
They publicly threatened him and threatened his family if he goes ahead with an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. So this is why there's no arrest warrant for Netanyahu. This is why Milosevic in Serbia was arrested by the International Criminal Tribunal on Yugoslavia or whatever, which was basically just a U.S. set-up court. Even though he was never convicted, right? And he was really exonerated of the perpetrating the genocide in Yugoslavia. Even though he was locked up, they can't lock up Netanyahu because the U.S. would retaliate with war. The U.S. would do anything to protect their little baby Israel. But, you know, if there was any justice in the world, Netanyahu would be rotting at the bottom of a well. He would be locked behind bars and never able to come out. He's one of the worst serial killers in human history.
Criminal court and telling them that there will be consequences if they do.
Hold on. I want to start it from the beginning here. Well, now where'd it go? Here it is.
The U.S. is now threatening the International Criminal Court and telling them that there will be consequences if they do anything to punish Israel. A letter signed by 12 Republican senators sent to the ICC's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, threatens severe consequences for him and his family if he goes ahead with an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. The letter ends by saying, "You have been warned." It's literally some evil supervillain type stuff. Look at the last paragraph here. The United States will not tolerate politicized attacks by the ICC on our allies. Target Israel, and we will target you. Then they threaten to sanction not only ICC employees, but also their families, and to bar them from the United States completely. Because this is how the U.S. protects freedom and democracy, by trampling all over international law and threatening to suppress international organizations who try to hold their allies accountable for genocide. International law is when we give the entire Middle East to Netanyahu and tell the indigenous Arab populations to go live somewhere else. What could this be called besides freedom and democracy? The U.S. is now
So the Republican senators, 12 of them, 12 elected U.S. officials are threatening threatening international bodies like the International Court of Justice for trying to carry out justice against Israel, for trying to hold Netanyahu accountable for his crime of genocide. The U.S. is openly threatening not only the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, but also his family, threatening to sanction his family and bar them from entering the United States. So this empire that we live in, folks, the U.S. empire has reached new levels of depravity. It reaches new levels of depravity almost every day, it seems. Why are only 8 people viewing on Twitch? I don't know. We don't have that big of a Twitch audience, but shout out to all the Twitch followers. Love y'all.
Love y'all. Keep grinding. I upload my gaming streams to Twitch, or I do all my gaming streams on Twitch, so people tune in for that sometimes. But a lot of people are watching on X, and a lot of people are watching on YouTube. We got 354 total, it looks like. And chew a piece of gum now. All right. Let's watch our boy, the West's greatest politician, host of the mother of all talk shows, recently elected parliamentarian George Galloway in Rockdale. He's one of the only Brits that I like. Just kidding. There's a lot of good Brits. But I haven't actually watched this video. So we're going to react to it together. But I saw him saying I'm like Corbyn's older, tougher, rougher brother, which is basically what George Galloway is. He's like a Marxist-Leninist Jeremy Corbyn, basically. So let's check him out.
Thank you for the very kind things that you said. Secondly, you're right. The same gang that destroyed Jeremy Corbyn are trying and would like to try to destroy me. But as someone said on Twitter, I'm like Corbyn's older, tougher, rougher brother. And despite the fact that he's actually several years older than me, I got what they mean. I'm made of different stuff. Jeremy admitted today in an interview that he was too kind, and that's true. And he'll go to heaven for that reason. But calamity has...
At least he didn't do what Bernie did. At least Jeremy Corbyn looks back now and admits I was way too soft. Right? I shouldn't have made Brexit an issue because I was pushed to by the Labour Party. I shouldn't have caved to these allegations of anti-Semitism. I should have called them out as what they were, BS. A bunch of Zionists using accusations of anti-Semitism to demonize Jeremy Corbyn and stop a pro-Palestinian socialist from getting in office. But he wasn't. And Bernie was too soft too. Right? Bernie was so soft with the media. He was always capitulating. Oh, no, no, no. I hate Cuban socialism. No, 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 no. We're going to leave room for the insurance companies. Don't worry about the poor insurance companies. Instead of just telling it like it is. No, screw the insurance companies. The American people come first. American people are getting screwed by their insurance companies every month. I'm coming after them. I mean, one of the things we said all the time working on the Bernie campaign in 2020, everybody said this. We need a politician with Bernie's policies and Trump's balls, right? And I would say we need policies far to the left of Bernie, way more socialist policies, not just nationalizing the insurance industry, but nationalizing the entire healthcare system. But you also need someone who's going to go after the corrupt politicians, who's going to go after the corrupt media. And Bernie never did that. Sometimes he would get snarky when he got asked ridiculous questions by CNN, right? But he would never call them what they are, an enemy of the people funded by mega corporations and by big pharma, which is what Trump was not afraid to call them. And then, you know, he's like, we need to do anything to defeat Trump. Joe Biden's a very good man. And then on the campaign, they literally wouldn't allow us. They wouldn't allow staffers or interns for Bernie to criticize the other Democrats. Literally. We weren't allowed to criticize the other Democrats. Like, we're running a positive campaign. We don't want to attack other Democrats. Like, dude, shoot me. We're trying to win, aren't we? You don't want me to criticize Joe Biden, who we're running against? The guy's evil. The guy gave the eulogy at the funeral of a segregationist. The guy's now perpetrating a genocide. You don't want me to criticize him because it's mean, Bernie? Right? And then after the campaign, he's tucked his tail and gone back to Zionist imperialist politics. Oh, hell yes. We have a special surprise here, guys. But at least Jeremy Corbyn admitted his faults, and George Galloway recognizes that the people want a Marxist-Leninist, not a social democrat. And someone who understands that better than anybody I know just entered the building. So welcome to Noah, everybody.
Hey, brother. What's up, everybody? I'm only here for a minute. I'm actually on my way out the door to physical therapy, but I wanted to let you know that the beef you started, I finished it.
The what?
The beef that you started, I finished it.
Oh, you dropped your disc?
Yeah. I'll leave it up to the public to decide who the better rapper is. I just want to make it clear that I am a rapper, and people should stop telling me I'm not a rapper.
People just don't see my art. I feel like they kept saying the Midwestern accent doesn't pair with good rap music, and I think that's
Right.
just racism.
Right, and they were just like, you know, here you go.
Should we watch it? Should we hear these bars?
If you want to be embarrassed in public. So recently, Eddie tried to make some kind of rap diss track about me, going off saying he was better than Kendrick Lamar and better than Drake and even better than me, which is crazy. People tell me all the time that I'm not a rapper. They say, Noah, you're not a rapper. And I say, yes, I am a rapper. I am a rapper. Don't tell me I'm not a rapper. You're not a rapper. You guys are about to hear me rap right now. Ready? Here we go. Here it comes. I am a rapper. Everybody told me not to mess with Eddie Smith. They said he was the kind of guy you shouldn't mess with. They said that Eddie was all brawn and no brains. I know that guy for years and he can't even say my name. Seriously, think about that. I worked with this guy for years and he still can't say Krachivik. How hard is that to pronounce? Ridiculous. Eddie is the kind of guy who go and steal your cat. Let me tell you just a little bit about that. It's not good, right? It's real messed up. Not only that, he was giving my cat drugs, exposing him to loud music that I do not approve of. What kind of horrible monster does that? I am a rapper. Stop telling me I'm not a rapper.
That was pretty fire. I can't lie. I don't know if
I
I'm gonna
told
be
you,
able to come
stop
back
telling
from
me
that.
I'm not a rapper.
Those were some sick bars. I'm gonna have to leave the rap game forever.
Well, I'm glad I could embarrass you. I don't know what else to say, brother. No, I just noticed you're on. I want to say hi to everybody, and we're super glad to be back. I'm on my way out the door to physical therapy because of the injury. So,
peace out, Noah. Thanks for stopping by.
See you later, brother. Bye, everybody.
All right. Well, that was Noah Krachvik. We'll never call him Noah Krachivik, no matter how much he asks. Because I decide what your name is around here. All right, let's finish the Galloway video.
Harden me and turn my mind to steel. My mind is made of steel, and I will keep on going forward as long as God gives me breath, and I will not be deflected, still less brought down by the chatterati in their North London dinner parties with their obsessions with race and gender and sexuality and sexual politics and personal pronouns and all the other pish that they spew out in their little dubiously sourced websites and portals.
That was awesome. What did you say there at the end about personal pronouns? And then, of course, we get a Jimmy Kimmel video about Stormy Daniels and sex with Trump. The real hard-hitting, important stuff. Don't you hate when they do that? They send you from someone like George Galloway and autoplay someone like Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, these men are not the same.
Their North London dinner parties with their obsessions with race and gender and sexuality and sexual politics and personal pronouns.
Yeah, he's just talking about the ruling class's obsession with wokeism over class politics. There's a Lenin quote about that. I don't know. I can't find it right now. He said something about, sex-based theories being abundant among the bourgeoisie and their intelligentsia. So, of course, distracting from class politics. Who's George Galloway? He's a UK parliamentarian socialist who won election in a place called Rockdale. He's been attacked for his pro-Palestinian views. He's been a pro-Palestinian activist for a very long time, socialist very, very long time. He's had acid thrown on his face. He was a parliamentarian before, was pushed out by the ruling class who absolutely hates him in the UK. He's hated by the ruling class. They're so terrified and scared of him, but he recently came back with a vengeance, gained a bunch of popularity, and won parliament again in an overwhelming landslide victory, which really threw the entire British ruling class into a tizzy. There were all these interviews, including Rishi Sunak, the leader of the Conservatives. I believe is he the prime minister right now, technically? He was basically, like, oh, a pro-Hamas person won election. Oh, my stars. It's like, gosh, British people suck. Just kidding. Not all British people, but British politicians. Jimmy Kimmey cringe as hell, yeah. Yeah, he's visited Gaza many times. Yeah, he's a badass. He's a great dude. Clipped. I used to watch Jimmy, but Trump fried his brain. I wouldn't go that far about Jimmy. I like Jimmy, but yeah, my interaction that I had with him was very disappointing. All I did was tell him that Chaya Rachik was a piece of crap and he shouldn't give her positive coverage because she's a Zionist. And she's become even more of a Zionist since I said that. And Jimmy, was like, you're just one of the, I wasn't giving her positive coverage. You're just one of the liars and haters who are trying to smear me. I'm like, I'm not. I literally watch your show, brother. I'm just trying to tell you that this lady's a piece of garbage, but whatever. Then he unfollowed me, which, what can you do? I still watch Jimmy, but not like I used to. I really like the Do Dissidents guys. I like Russell Dobular. The Jimmy introduced me to those guys. I mean, I knew who they were, but then I really started watching them when they were on the Jimmy Dore show. And now I kind of watch their show even more than I watch Jimmy's show. But Zionism isn't a deal breaker for Jimmy. Is he voting RFK? Because if so, I'm going to be like, Jimmy, bruh, you came after Cornel West so hard and now you're voting for a Zionist simply because Cornel West, brings up white supremacy and says that it's bad. We all know who the best Jimmy is. This Jimmy. That's damn right. The Midwestern Marxist Jimmy. A real change can only come from working class led by a Marxist-Leninist party. I tend to agree. You can have, there was real change in Venezuela led by the PSUV, which is like a coalition party of different socialists and Chavistas and community organizers. And, Venezuela's struggling and 80% of their economy is still private and they need to do a lot of things to invest the surplus of their country into industrial development and, increasing the productive forces and developing a more independent, sovereign economy. But there have been, a lot of welfare programs implemented, a lot of people raised out of poverty, a lot of people given education and healthcare, a lot of things done by the Socialist Party in Venezuela since taking power and since the years of Chavez. And, but that was led by the working class, right? That party wouldn't have been successful if they didn't have the support of the working class. I'm just saying they didn't call themselves explicitly Marxist-Leninists, but I wish they did. Right? If there was a Marxist-Leninist party, Venezuela would look more like Cuba or look more like the DPRK, and they'd be red rather than pink. And they would have less struggles. But Richard and Danny based as hell always, yes. Oh, Richard Medhurst and Danny Haifong had a good show yesterday. Yeah, I had a Richard Medhurst video pulled up to react to. Yeah, let's watch this because this is the most important news for the day. This is what I wanted people to be caught up on. This is the most important thing that happened in Israel-Palestine. We had the bombings of, I believe it was West Rafah, where over 1,100,000, I believe, Palestinians are currently located because they've been pushed from their homes in northern Gaza. Rafah is obviously in southern Gaza. So the bombings continued. There have been more horrific videos of children and civilians being pulled from rubble, parents finding their children in body bags and breaking down in tears. All the videos we've been seeing since this genocide started have started being released again out of this area that's being bombarded. And now Israeli troops have crossed over the border of Egypt, the so-called Rafah crossing, into Rafah, into Gaza, probably in preparation of their ground invasion. So let's pull up Google Earth real quick, because I always like to give people a sense of what's going on geographically. So I can show you here. I mean, I can just picture it in my head, and actually I have a map of the Middle East right in front of me behind my computer, so that doesn't hurt. But for those who can't picture it in their head, who don't have maps all over their room and study geography in their free time, we'll give you a little geography lesson right now so you can start to learn. So where the heck is Africa? There it is. So here we have, no, I'm messing up. This is where we want to be. So here we have Egypt, and this is the Sinai Desert, which Israel seized at one point, but after Egypt gave them a bloody nose in 1973, they were forced to give the entire Sinai back. So this is a huge desert that is owned by Egypt. Now here is Israel, and here is the Gaza Strip. Rafah is in the southern Gaza Strip. You see it right there. This is known as the Rafah crossing, and this is usually closed off. This is the border. This is part of the open-air prison that keeps the Palestinians in there. The hospital is temporarily closed. What do you know? But anyways, Israeli troops recently crossed the Rafah border into Rafah and into Gaza to begin their ground invasion. And most of the Palestinians have been pushed out of northern Gaza by bombing campaigns and all the rest. And they're now concentrated in the southern part, which Israel is now preparing to invade. And there were leaked documents from Israeli officials way earlier in the conflict where they said they plan to push millions of Palestinians out of Rafah into the Sinai Desert. Right? They just want to push them from here into here. Absolute insanity. But I think it's likely that that's their plan. Either slaughter them or push them into the Sinai. So just unbelievable cruelty. Nothing you can call that except ethnic cleansing and genocide. And this is why nobody should be voting for Joe Biden in the fall.
The Israelis have squeezed the entirety of Gaza and its residents like a tube of toothpaste. And now nothing is left. Nothing is left save for Rafah. Rafah is on the border with Egypt. See that? It's this border town between the two. And the Israelis...
Richard Medhurst is doing the same thing as me. I didn't even need to give you guys the geography lesson.
...have gone and invaded it. They have done and crossed this red line that every Western government said, oh, we won't accept this unless it safeguards civilians. Well, let's see what they've been doing to civilians, shall we? Here they are, amassing like a bunch of orcs that are ready to attack Helm's Deep. So you see what he did? He was blowing, or rather playing, a ram's horn, okay? And as Dan says it here, moments before invading Zionist soldiers blast a ram's horn and chant, let us destroy Rafah. Same ideology as ISIS, but they pretend to be Jews instead of Muslims. Absolutely. 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 I couldn't have said it better myself. Here's Netanyahu.
אמש הנחיתי, בהסכמת קבינט המלחמה, לפעול ברפיח. תוך שעות, כוחותינו הניפו את דגלי ישראל במעבר רפיח, והורידו את דגלי החמאס. הכניסה לרפיח משרתת שני יעדי מלחמה מרכזיים. השבת חטופינו וחיסול החמאס. אנחנו כבר הוכחנו בשחרור החטופים הקודם. לחץ צבאי על החמאס הוא תנאי...
And it's so wild that they keep saying their main goal is to rescue the hostages, because a lot of the hostages are dead now, and they've, of course, been killed by Israeli missiles. because they're carpet bombing Gaza, and because they have this thing called the Hannibal Doctrine that says it's preferable to kill their own hostages rather than to allow them to remain in the hands of the enemy. And this has sparked massive protests in Israel by Zionists, by Israeli citizens against Netanyahu, because they see the obvious, that they're not actually going for the hostages. They're just trying to punish the Palestinian people and actually killing their own hostages in the process. So nobody's buying that, including the Israeli people.
תנאי הכרחי להשבת חטופינו. הצעת החמאס אתמול נועדה לטרפד את כניסת כוחותינו לרפיח. זה לא קרה. כפי שקבע קבינט המלחמה פה אחד, הצעת החמאס רחוקה מאוד מהדרישה.
And now he's explaining why he's a liar, why he's not interested in diplomacy, he's not interested in a ceasefire, yada, yada, yada. We know. Save us the nonsense. And so now you can see the peaceful Israelis, the ever so peaceful Israelis going into Gaza and crushing something as insignificant as an I love Gaza sign, right?
I mean, and that right there, people say it's not an ethnic cleansing. Then what do you call that? Why are they running over the Gaza signs? And, you know, these videos, there's a war right now going on in Ukraine. And there are sad videos coming out of Ukraine. There are bad videos coming out of Ukraine, especially videos from the Ukrainian soldiers, like the ones you see on Telegram of them torturing Russians and stuff, torturing prisoners of war. And there are videos of Ukrainians conscripting old men and young people, forcing them into cars and beating them if they don't go fight the Russians. There are videos like that coming out of Ukraine, but there aren't a ton of videos of the Russians just hitting civilians or children being trapped under rubble and murdered, of them, you know, destroying cultural artifacts that belong to the Ukrainians. That's just not the way that they're waging war. They're not doing what the Israelis are doing, where they view all of these children and civilians as terrorists, as legitimate targets, and trying to wipe out their culture, wipe out their way of life, wipe out their whole ass population, so that they can steal the land and have it be part of the Jewish Zionist ethno-state that the rest of Israel is. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious when you see stuff like this. They're not going for the hostages. They're not going for the hostages, and they're not even fighting Hamas. They're trying to destroy Gaza and make it part of the Israeli ethno-state. They're trying to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian Arabs. It is obvious.
So just destruction of property and crushing it as a symbol, just an insignificant sign that says I love Gaza. It's when you enter from Rafah, and making sure to destroy any semblance of you know, a Palestinian presence.
How many of these videos are there? How many of these videos of them blowing up Gaza signs are there? Goodness, these people are psychos. And this is what I mean, guys. Like, I've told this story a million times. I started doing pro-Palestinian content on TikTok, and then a bunch of Zionists, of course, hit me up and said, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. This isn't the whole story. Listen to us. Let us talk to you on Zoom. So I met with the 3 IDF soldiers and 1 girl from Brooklyn who wanted to move to Israel and join the IDF, which at the time I didn't even understand. I didn't know that people did that. And it took them about 5 minutes to start talking about how all the Palestinian Arab population is terrorists, right? And how they're just trying to kill us, and they're inherently violent people, and we got to stop them. Right? The more you get to meet the Zionists and the Israeli settlers and members of the Israeli occupation forces, the so-called IDF, the more evil you realize they are. The more imperialistic and violent and racist and Jewish supremacist you realize they are. And them destroying these Gaza symbols is just one of a million examples.
And here they are celebrating. They're actually celebrating their invasion.
I'm going to leave this playing. There's some loud-ass ringing noise in my house. I'm going to try and end it.
כביש מספר אחד, כל המשאיות לעזה חוסמים אותם,
As one of you says in the comments, this is Stephen. So we'll never see them fighting, eh? Yeah, you will see Israeli soldiers bombing children, torturing prisoners, abusing prisoners, committing war crimes, but never actually fighting. Never, 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 never. You will never see them fighting because they're incapable of fighting. Here's what they've done to Gaza. Look at the satellite imagery. How in 24 hours, they seized the Rafah crossing, okay? And then they cleared all of the aid trucks. All of these aid trucks that were stranded in Egypt waiting for approval. Do you see how many trucks there are? I mean, I've talked about this before at great length with you guys. I've done many, many videos about how the Israelis divert the aid trucks, they delay them, they send them to the back of the line, all of these things, right? I've covered it in detail. And I showed you video from this exact highway. These are hundreds of trucks. That's May the 5th, and the next day they're all gone. Nothing. They've destroyed all of the aid or taken it elsewhere, who knows? The point is it's not getting to Palestinians, right?
I hate how many Americans have been tricked into thinking that sanctions and blockades and economic warfare aren't like real war. Right? Like the sanction regimes we have on Cuba and Venezuela, like those are acts of war. Those sanctions are enforced at the barrel of a gun. We have the Caribbean, where Cuba and Venezuela are, surrounded with the U.S. Navy or filled to the brim with the U.S. Navy. We have Colombia, which borders Venezuela, has like more military bases than almost U.S. military bases than almost any place on earth, only comparable with like Israel and Kosovo, literal NATO outposts, U.S. outposts. And Hugo Chavez repeatedly called Colombia the Israel of Latin America. And it is an old-fashioned siege tactic, right? Like in the medieval days, you would surround the enemy's castle, you'd surround their city with catapults and not let anything in or out, and you would starve the people out. That's what they're doing, right? And they say, oh, no, we're only sanctioning corrupt leaders. We're only sanctioning the bad guys. Well, Venezuela's government revenue is down 99%. Cuba had one of the highest GDPs in Central America when the Pope pressured Obama to remove the blockade. Right there, these sanctions are having crippling effects. Same with the ones on the DPRK. Same with the ones on Iran. Multiple studies have shown that there have been unnecessary deaths in Iran, thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, because of the U.S. sanctions. It's siege warfare, and that's what they're doing to the tiny little Gaza Strip that's had all of its infrastructure bombed. That's had all of its productive forces destroyed by Israeli missiles. So they're kept in a strangulating blockade and then repeatedly carpet bombed and having their infrastructure wiped out. And then these sick fucking Zionists look at Gaza and say, who cares about the Palestinians? They don't produce anything anyways. They don't have a real economy anyways. Like, yeah, because you blew it up and put them under a siege. Thank you, Battle Cossack. We got 3 YouTube members already. We're building back up, baby. Midwestern Marx has been remonetized. We got 3 or 4 YouTube members already. We're going to build back up to the 60 that we had before. Screw you, Google AdSense. I'm having coffee. Nice. Tricking Americans is not exactly a difficult task, but it's becoming harder, Albert. It's becoming much, much harder for the ruling class because of shows like this and because of people like y'all.
It's not getting to the people who need it. Here also at the crossing itself, all these aid trucks you see, they're like ants. There's so many of them. They're like ants, right? Gone the next day. Unbelievable. How malfeasant and malevolent this behavior is. It's like hatred from the heart. It's real racism, hatred, Nazism. You call it whatever you like. You can call it whatever you like, but we know what it is. It's evil. And you can see here what they did also, the Israelis, is they put all of the international workers, the humanitarian workers, the doctors, the healthcare officials that have come from overseas, from all over the place. They pack them into buses and then ship them out of Gaza so they don't see the invasion of Rafah. Okay? Look at this, for example. They're crying in the bus because they know that they won't see anyone in Gaza again. These are doctors that came from Kuwait to work in Gaza. And now they're being told they have to go right before the invasion. So one of them is crying, you can see. And one of these doctors is actually Palestinian, but in Kuwait, right? And he had never actually been to Palestine. So it was the first time that he had ever set foot in Palestine. And he was crying here, and he's from the same group as the one that we're then told to ship out.
Gosh, that is heartbreaking. I want to take a second here to acknowledge Retro Gamer 07, who said, "I'm now 3 years and 4 months sober from alcohol." Congratulations, brother. That's awesome. For those who don't know, Noah kicked heroin addiction years ago. And Danny Shaw of Midwestern Marks is an addiction counselor. And we know the way that capitalism beats people down and gets them to rely on addiction and induces them with alcoholism. I mean, we make choices. We all make choices, but it's hard, when you're dealing with trauma in this rugged individualistic system where you have no guarantees that you're going to be taken care of or be able to retire and stuff like that. So any victories that we can accomplish in terms of personal health and in terms of bettering ourselves as communists and revolutionaries is something to be celebrated. And it's something important for the revolution, right? We just because we're communists and we believe in, so-called collectivism doesn't mean that we throw out, self-improvement and individual achievement and even individual responsibility to some sense. So meaning, responsibility to the collective and responsibility to take care of yourself so that you can still support the collective and be a part of it. But this is definitely something worth celebrating. So congrats, brother.
Yeah, so he's saying it's first time I've ever been here. And he said, "Are you from Gaza?" I said, "No, from Jaffa." So it's elsewhere in Palestine, but still Palestinian. And you can.
All right, y'all. I got to finish up this segment because I got a doctor's appointment in 20 minutes. I just got a notification about. But yeah, great video there from Richard Medhurst. We'll move on to our last segment of the day. Here we got Piers Morgan.
You believe you've killed?
We don't have exact figures.
This is an Israeli spokesman, and Piers just asked him how many Palestinian civilians that they've killed. Or he might have asked him how many Hamas fighters he killed. And I am so sick of hearing Piers Morgan say, Hamas, Hamas, how many Hamas? Do you support Hamas? But what Hamas did on October 7th? October 7th, Hamas. Shut the hell up. But in this clip, he actually destroys this Israeli spokesperson, which is crazy. I've never seen Piers push back on anyone. But what this guy's saying is just so outlandish that even Piers gets him to fall apart.
How many civilians do you believe you've killed?
We don't have exact figures, as you know, it's the fog of war.
But you've got exact numbers for Hamas terrorists you've killed. Why wouldn't you know how many civilians you've killed?
Because obviously our focus is to go after the Hamas terrorists. And
hang on, that does imply that you're putting a bigger premium on killing Hamas terrorists in terms of numbers and accountability than you are on innocent civilians. That can't be right, surely. If you know exactly how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, you must know how many civilians you've killed. Otherwise, you're prioritizing the lives of terrorists over innocent people.
Piers, with respect, don't put words into my mouth, please. I didn't say exactly 14,000. I said around 14,000. Whereas Hamas will come out with precise numbers that statisticians will look at.
Give me a ballpark number for civilians.
Well, you can use the ballpark as far as the Hamas figures, which I reject as being false.
Well, if they're false, why would you give me those?
I gave you the numbers that I had.
No, you told me you know how many Hamas terrorists you've killed, but you don't seem to have any idea how many civilians you've killed. I'm just bemused. Why wouldn't you keep count of both?
I don't have that information to give you, Piers. If I did, I would.
You literally no idea how many civilians you've been killing.
I can tell you definitively that our aim is to go after Hamas.
No, hang on. I'm sorry to push you on this. That's quite extraordinary. You're an official spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea how many civilians you've killed. I thought you just told me that you were particularly careful about not killing civilians. But if you don't know how many you've killed, how can you say that with any certainty?
Because even if you were to go by a ratio of the Hamas figures, we would still be far ahead of
That
any
wasn't my
Western army.
question. You know it wasn't my question.
I don't have the information.
You literally have no idea how many civilians you've killed.
It's not that I don't know. I'm not authorized to give the information.
That's the part I was waiting for. That part's so funny to me. I don't have that information. We don't know how many civilians we've killed. We have no clue. No idea. No idea. And then he's like, what do you mean you're not keeping track? He's like, no, we know. I know how many we've killed. I'm just not authorized to give you that information. What? Bro, you just said you don't have that information. Now you're saying you do have the information. You're just not authorized to give it to him. You can't change your story mid-sentence.
I don't have the information.
That's complete nonsense. Why are you
That's complete nonsense. Brother, Israeli spokesman, you just got destroyed by Piers Morgan. You just got dismantled by Piers, the Zionist Morgan, a guy who is paid to be on your side, a guy who's paid to make the Zionists look good. And this guy and Rabbi Shmuley have gone on Piers Morgan's show and made themselves look terrible.
authorized to give me the number of terrorists you've killed, but not the number of civilians? I don't understand.
He just glitches. His brain's broke. Look, he's buffering.
Can you explain?
Can you explain?
Piers, we will go after Hamas. We will ensure that we.
You want me to believe you're being incredibly careful about how many civilians?
I would be so embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed in this situation.
Killing, and you have an amazing exemplary record, but you don't know how many civilians you're killing. So how do I know you've been?
I didn't even take that long of a pause when I was debating Vaush and Destiny. When they would throw like a million things at me at once, and I'd have to like, hold on, let me think. Even against them, I didn't take that long of a pause. This guy stumped against Piers Morgan.
Being careful.
Piers, when the dust settles, we will come out with the proper numbers. Hamas runs to the press daily with false.
When the dust settles, a lot of people will have died, and you know how many Hamas you've killed, but you don't know how many civilians you've killed. And I'm just asking you why. Why is it you've kept a record of one, but not the other?
I personally don't have that information to give to you. You can ask me over and over. I'm not going to come up with more information. I don't.
You don't know.
I don't have that information for you today.
But you're an official government spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea.
Most Israeli spokespeople sound European. Yeah, funny how that works, isn't it, Battle Cossack? Funny how that works. It's almost like it's a European colonialist project plopped in the middle of Arab land.
Piers, I came on here to focus on what's going on with the war.
Well, actually, you came on here to answer my questions, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer for you for that.
And I didn't intend to press you on this point because I assumed that you would not respond the way you have.
I didn't intend to press you at all. I intended to give you a softball interview and get you to allow you to justify genocide. But you're such a bloody idiot. I had to press you. And now you're falling apart. And now Eddie Liger is doing a horrible British accent on the Midwestern Mark stream.
But I've never had an Israeli spokesman who simply said, I have no idea. Particularly after you boasted about the fact that you've been very smart in the way you've avoided killing civilians. How do you know?
Yes, Christopher. Piers Morgan is now Hamas.
You've got no idea how many you've killed.
Because I know the way in which the IDF operates. I know the way in which we go after the terrorists in the best possible way. It's not what I've said. It's what General Petraeus has said. It's what John Spencer from West Point has said. It's what multiple British generals have said. Israel goes out of its way to avoid civilian casualties. That's what we'll do. If you can point to me to another conflict by which they have evacuated, got out of harm's way civilians to the extent that Israel has done, then fine.
Vaush will now call Piers Morgan a tanky for questioning this guy too much and claim that it's unproductive. We need Marxist-Leninist leaders like Piers Morgan to be more friendly to Zionists. This is just leftist infighting. Eddie's British accent is Hamas. Is Hamas.
Sorry, with respect, Mr. Hyman, how can you possibly expect me to accept any comparisons to any other conflict or war, given that you do not know how many civilians you've killed?
Piers, you understand that I can't prosecute the war over the media.
I'm just asking you for basic information. I'm not trying to trap you, and I'm not trying to unfairly harangue you. I think people are watching this and they'll make their own conclusions. I just find it astonishing that the moment I asked you how many Hamas you killed, you could tell me immediately. And the moment I ask you about civilians, you haven't got a clue, literally. That you're not even prepared to issue a ballpark number. And I think people will find that staggering.
So unbelievable. The Zionists Hezbollah, their propaganda campaign, their media blitz is falling apart so bad that they're literally getting destroyed by Piers Morgan at this point, a Zionist himself. So we're winning, folks. We just got to keep up, keep learning, keep reading, keep educating ourselves, keep having the hard conversations with friends and family, keep getting more involved with organizing efforts. If you're protesting, keep protesting. Shout out to the students who are protesting right now. Stay strong. Everybody get signed up. Join our Discord on the Midwestern Marx link tree, or check the description for the link to the Discord. Also, check out the conference that we're going to in Dearborn, Michigan next month. Tickets now available on the Midwestern Marx X and Jackson Hinkle and Hazaldine's X. It should be a really great event. But I got to head out because I have a doctor's appointment in 15 minutes. It was awesome hanging out with you guys. So glad we got remonetized here on YouTube. Feel free to become a YouTube member if you want to support us financially. And we'll see you next time. I think I'm going to end today. Instead of with our normal intro, I'll end with our normal outro. I'll end with a special video from Hugo Chavez.
Aprovecho para condenar de nuevo desde el fondo de mi alma de mis vísceras al Estado de Israel, maldito sea, terroristas y asesinos. ¡Que viva el pueblo palestino! Pueblo heroico,